An update to the Violence Against Women Act is being celebrated as an important step towards protecting Native communities, women, and children.
We have an ongoing crisis of violence in Alaska. More than half of Alaska women surveyed in the 2020 Alaska Victimization Survey have experienced intimate partner violence, sexual violence, or both in their lifetime.
Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska led a bipartisan group of lawmakers to get the reauthorization done. Murkowski has worked with many Alaska Native women to strengthen and improve the law since its last reauthorization in 2013. The Violence Against Women Act, also known as VAWA, is a huge deal in Indian country because of its protection for Indian women. According to the Department of Justice, which tracks violent crime in Native communities, Native women experience some of the highest rates of violence. Most of those crimes are committed by non-Natives. VAWA was first passed in 1994 when then Senator Joe Biden championed it.
My dad would say the greatest sin of all that anyone could commit was the abuse of power. And the cardinal sin was for a man to raise his hand to a woman or a child.
The law has since been reauthorized 4 times since its passage. Sarah Deer is a Muskogee Nation citizen, an expert on tribal law, and a MacArthur Genius Fellow. She helped get the law reauthorized in 2013. She says this new version is even better for Native communities.
And the 2022 reauthorization restores tribal criminal jurisdiction over non-Indians for a series of crimes that Native people and tribal nations have been asking for ever since 1978.
In 1978, the U.S. Supreme Court stripped tribal courts of their right to prosecute non-Indians when they commit crimes within the reservation boundaries. The case was called Oliphant versus Suquamish. Deer says it was a huge blow to tribal sovereignty, but the new reauthorization of VAWA reverses some of that.
Now with the 2022 version, it's been expanded to a series of other crimes, which have been, very difficult for tribes to deal with without authority over non-Indians. It's not a complete Oliphant fix, like bribery is not in there. It's mainly violent crime, but it is another step in the right direction.
The previous version only allowed for tribal nations to prosecute non-Natives for domestic violence. The new bill will include child abuse, sexual violence, sex trafficking, stalking, and violating protection orders. It will also allow tribal courts to prosecute a non-Native who assaults a tribal police officer. Elizabeth Rees, a citizen of the Pueblo of Nambe and a professor of tribal law at Stanford, testified before Congress before the new version of VAWA was passed.
Expansion to adjacent crimes would create a more equitable system for prosecutors and defense counsel to navigate. And that is because the vast majority of criminal cases in the United States are resolved not at trial, but by plea bargaining.
The new bill commits more than $86 million to Tribal Justice Program, which gives the act some teeth. Deer says she's happy with the expanded jurisdiction, but says tribes need to be fully able to prosecute non-Natives for any crime they commit against Indians on their own land.
It's about we are ready to help ourselves. And what we need is for Congress to be part of that project with us so that we can finally once and for all deal with this.
The act will be up for renewal again in 2027. Allison Herrera, Newsy, Tulsa, Oklahoma.